Welcome to Sitting In on Therapy with Marsha Linehan, Part 2, Assessing and Treating Suicidal Behaviors, Session 1. I'm Alex Chapman, and I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Washington with Marsha Linehan, and I also see clients as a DBT research therapist. We appreciate all of your support and are very pleased that you could join us today. This is our second series of distance learning programs. This two-session series will be focused on assessing and treating suicidal behaviors. For these two sessions, Marsha will be working with a client, Katie. For a profile of the client and handouts, please go to login@behavioraltech.org. During this show, Marsha will do a brief introduction, then 40 minutes of unscripted role play that will be a true-to-life portrayal of therapy with a client in DBT. After the role play, the webcast will conclude with a discussion about the session. While you're watching the webcast, if you have any questions, please email them to us at qlive@behavioraltech.org. The questions will be included in the toolkit along with the answers from our team of experts. I will now turn the show over to Marsha.
So, as you can see, I'm treating Katie. Now, Katie is a client who I got referred in our research study. And we have several studies going on, but she got referred to me in our study of highly suicidal people meeting criteria for borderline personality disorder. And I was the first therapist to get assigned a client, and I got Katie. So I knew nothing about her before I saw her. Now, my job as a therapist in this particular study is to try to do dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, to the very best of my ability, and I'm trying to do a first session. And not only are you watching the first session, but frankly, all of my research team is watching this session, and the adherence coders are watching this session, and I've been told by myself and my team I am to try to do the perfect session. So you can just imagine I'm a little bit on the nervous side. So you can watch and see what happens when you're doing a session and you're being recorded, and your team is going to see you, because that's what's going to happen to me. And I certainly hope that's what's going to happen to you, that you actually have the courage and the guts to get yourself taped so someone can watch you. So that's what's happening. Now, in our clinic, the way we work is a patient comes in and they get an intake assessment. And in the intake assessment, one of the major parts of that evaluation is that they're evaluated to see if they meet criteria for borderline personality disorder, and just a little bit of history is taken. And the intake person then writes up a one-page report that doesn't say too much, that they send to the therapist and to the team. And so I got a one-page report. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I know about Katie. And what I know about her is that she's 30. I knew this before this session started, that she's 34. She's been married 3 times, and she's been divorced 3 times. But I'm not certain if she's married now or single when I start the session, but I'm pretty sure the divorce is finished and she's not married. She is living in a basement apartment at her dad's house. And she previously owned a company that was a house cleaning company, and she had an accident about 7 or 8 months ago where she was pretty seriously hurt and couldn't go back to do all this heavy lifting in the house cleaning business. And the business, even though she actually had a fair amount of people working for her, the business, because she couldn't do any house cleaning herself, the business slowly fell apart. And apparently it fell apart, and that's why she's ending up living within the basement of her dad's house. She meets 8 out of 9 criteria for borderline personality disorder. The only criteria that she doesn't meet is dissociation, dissociative criteria, and paranoid ideation. And she's had 2 suicide attempts, at least. I think there might have been one further in the past. It said that she had some sort of self-injury further in the past, but the report didn't tell me whether the first one was a suicide attempt or not. But the report said that she had 2 suicide attempts in the last 8 weeks, right before she came into treatment with me, and that both of these suicide attempts, she ended up in the critical care unit of a local hospital. So I don't really have a lot of information about those, but I'm going to try to get some. She was referred by the hospital to me, and that's pretty much what I knew. I knew, a few more things, but not a whole lot more. She doesn't meet criteria for manic depressive disorder. She doesn't meet criteria for a schizophrenic disorder. And I don't know what she meets criteria for other than that, or whether she has other significant diagnostic criteria, because I haven't gotten a diagnostic interview report, and I myself haven't done a diagnostic interview with her yet. So what you're coming into now is the first session that I have with her. So what are my goals in the first session? My goals in the first session, the main goal is to find out why she came. Now, I've already been meeting with her for about 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes when you're coming into this tape. And so I've already asked her, why does she come? And what's she doing here? And what I found out was that on her last suicide attempt, the inpatient hospital in town told her that she was there for almost a week on a medical unit. And they then told her that she could go to a psychiatric unit. She didn't want to go to a psychiatric unit. So they told her options were that she was either going to be involuntarily committed to the psychiatric unit, or she could come over to our treatment program. And so she decided to come here instead of to go on to the inpatient unit. When I asked her what she was hoping to get out of therapy, I found out, one, she'd never been in therapy before in her life. She's never heard any good reports on therapy and doesn't really have a particularly positive opinion of therapy. But that what she wants, and the reason she's willing to come, is she wants to get her old life back. So of course I asked, what in the world was her old life back? And what she wants is to be able to get her company back, or to start another company. She wants to be a business owner, financially independent, out of living with her dad, and living on her own again and supporting herself. So that's really what she's looking for. And we've talked about that and try to get that narrowed down. And I'm now going to move into trying to get some history, which would be the second thing you'd want to do in the first session, is get some history of the suicidal behavior. At least you want to know kind of what are you dealing with. And I'm going to try to do some crisis assessment to find out how suicidal is this patient. Your other goal in the first session is to get a commitment to treatment. Now, she's asked me, what is this treatment? Because that was one of the first questions. So I've already told her we meet twice a week, once for individual, once for group therapy, that she can call me, and that we have a team. And I gave her a list of the members of the team. So I've talked to her about what the treatment is, and you want to do that in your first session. So what I have left to do is to evaluate how suicidal she is, and what do I have to worry about this week until I see her again. And I want to get a commitment that she isn't going to kill herself, and is she willing to work on not being so suicidal. And I want to be sure to have another appointment already set up with her, and in fact I want to have 4 appointments already set up with her. Other than that, I'll have to wait and see sort of what shows up so that I can figure out what I have to do. So you're coming in, not in the middle of the session, but somewhat in the middle. I've already asked her if it's all right if I take notes, and she said it was all right. And I told her that I had this information, so she kind of knows some of the information I have. Okay. So one of the things you want to do is get out of your dad's, get out of this basement, and kind of get living on your own again.
Yeah, it's like I've got to get out of there. it's more than want. And I just want to make sure you really understand that. I've got to get out of there.
Okay, so, given that you had this really bad accident, I forgot to ask you earlier, but when we were talking about, but did you have health insurance in your company?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
And
maxed out. It's gone. There's nothing left.
All right. So you don't have any health insurance now?
Last of it's gone.
And had you been playing into the unemployment state system? Are you on an unemployment?
Yeah, it's about to run out.
Okay. And so when you're on unemployment, though, did you have to be looking for some sort of job?
Because of medical problems, they didn't require it.
Okay. So if you want to get a job now, are you disabled in the sense that you could get medical disability to kind of for a while here?
It's like I'm gonna make a recovery. It's just that it's taking a long time, and I'm never gonna be the way that I was. I'm never gonna be able to do. My work has always been really physical. I'm never gonna be able to do that again. But it's not like I'm disabled according to standards that would count.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the problem is I've got no training. That's all I've ever done is work with my hands.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in other words, you're feeling like you're not physically going to be able to go back to house cleaning?
Right. There's just no way. There's no way to carry the supplies in. There's no way to be carrying vacuum cleaners around. It's like the car wreck, it damaged my chest. It essentially, I had a heart attack as a result of the impact of this car crash.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that now it's like I've got this heart of this, really old person, and it's fragile. And, I'm just never going to be able to do a lot of the physical work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So one of our goals then is to sort of figure out what you could do.
Yes, ma'am.
And then try to figure out a way to get you employed.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly.
Okay. So, and your dad is giving you living for free, right?
If you can call it for free. There's never anything free with them, man. There's always some string attached. But if you mean, do I have to come up with any money to be there? No.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Now, do you have do you have income other right now than what you're getting from the state?
No.
Okay. And how many weeks do you have on that?
I've got like 2 left.
All right.
Believe me, if I had any other money, I would not be living with my father.
Okay, so one thing we probably have to do, if not today, next week, we've got to start figuring out what you're going to do when you actually get zero from the state.
Yes.
All right. So that time is coming. Okay. You're getting free living. Is your dad helping you with food or any other expenses?
Yeah, it doesn't cost me anything to be there in terms of money. There's no problems with that at all. It's just being under his roof is, that costs.
All right.
It costs more than I have to give, frankly.
Okay. Well, I want to hear about that. I do. But first, I want to hear about the fact that, this written report I got, my report said that you'd had 2 suicide attempts in the last 8 weeks. So one thing we need to talk about is those suicide attempts, and I in particular need to know where you're at right now and how suicidal you are. Why don't we start with you just telling me about these 2 suicide attempts, because they seem like they were pretty serious. What happened?
Well, the first one, I took half a bottle of Tylenol and wound up my dad's wife found me, and they took me to the hospital, and I realized it was there that somebody was actually kind of stupid enough to mention that if I was still on some of my heart medicine, that with the Tylenol probably would have been enough to kill me. So, I tucked that little detail away. I pride myself on being smart. Not like
What is
book
your
smart.
heart medicine?
Well, it's this muscle contraction relaxant thing. I don't know exactly what they call it, but they had said if I was still taking it and had the Tylenol, it would have been a problem. But I thought, my dad has heart medicine. So I thought, well, all right. So the next time, took what was left of the Tylenol, and I took his Coumadin. Which I don't know if you know what that is, but that's basically it's rat poison.
Yeah.
When you want to kill a bunch of rats, you give them rat poison, and it basically they just bleed until they die. So that was number 2.
Okay, so let's go back to this first one, though. So what happened on the first one? How'd you end up taking a half a bottle of Tylenol? I mean, what was, is that the first suicide attempt you've ever had?
Yeah. I mean, no. It's the first one where I knew, this was it. That I was going to kill myself. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, it's always been in the back of my mind. It's always like the trap door or the escape hatch. But I mean, yeah, this is the first time where, I was, planning. Like I wrote a note, so that if someday, my son wants to find me, that there's some explanation as to, what I was thinking about and stuff like that. So, I mean, I was done.
So what happened? I mean, how'd you get to that point? What set this off?
It's living in my dad's house. It's like, I mean, my growing up years were not pretty at all. And now I'm forced to be there. And it's as if, it's as if nothing ever happened. I mean, he's just, I mean, you would think from the outside that he's this really great father to be helping me out like this, and, the neighbors and his wife and everyone says, oh, Katie, you should, it's so great that you've got a dad like this in your life to help take care of you right now. And I don't know, I just, the hypocrisy, I don't know, it just so fucking pissed me off. I just thought, I just cannot stand to be around this man and these lies anymore. And I just said, fuck it, I'm done.
So what's the hypocrisy?
It's like, Uncle Tommy, started touching me and stuff when I was, a kid. And I tell my dad, and he beats me up for it. And then the rest of my life, it's like I'm the one that's insane. I'm the one that's crazy, that, none of this shit happened, and somehow it's just all in my head. And so, I don't know. And now, I don't know, like, I'm the one that's all screwed up, and yet there I am in his house, and now he's like, I don't know how to describe it, but he gets this, like, look on his face, and it's like when I was a kid.
Now, have you, are you back into a relationship with your father and you haven't been in one, or are you back into your relation and you've had one all along but you didn't live with him?
It's been one of those things, like, every couple years maybe, his wife will try to, like, have a family thing. So, like, there'll be maybe, like, some dinner at the holidays or something like that. But we pretty much, I took off out of there when I was, 18, and we pretty much have just kind of been civil when we've been in the same space. But I don't think that there's really ever been a relationship between the two of us.
Have you felt like the way you feel now about him kind of all along now?
Yeah.
Okay. And so is one of the things you've done is, Are you the one who's kept a distance from him, or has he kept a distance from you?
I've kept a distance from him.
All right. So how'd you end up living there?
I have no choice. I have no business. My work's gone. After this car accident, I can't do what I know how to do. I watched my business crumble. I've got, no skills to have a job. And, my current, boyfriend, he doesn't make any money. And he doesn't really have any place to live. It's like I had no other place to go. And I thought, well, he's got this basement apartment, maybe somehow things have changed. Maybe somehow, I can live there until I get some sort of, physical strength back.
Okay. So when did you move in?
Probably just after the accident. I mean, it's all kind of fuzzy, but I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago, 5 months ago.
So you've been living with your dad for 6 months, and how is it that you didn't attempt suicide for the first time until like a month ago?
Yeah.
So what happened? Something must have changed.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it's like the first couple months, I was so out of it, I mean, it's like they had to do, like a lot of surgery at the time, of the car wreck. And I mean, I was really, really badly injured. And so I was in the hospital for a long time, and then most of my day was like going to medical appointments and going to physical therapy, and I still go to physical therapy a couple times a week. And so it was kind of like I was living there, but I wasn't really there because I was at all these appointments. And it's just, is that me?
I don't know. What is it?
Oh my God,
Is that your phone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hi, Katie.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm at an appointment.
We've been looking all over for you. We're going to go hang out. Do you want to come over with us?
Yeah. I'm going to be here. Hey, just a second. How long do you think we're going to be?
Why don't you say about 30 more minutes, but why don't you go ahead and get off
Okay.
the phone?
I'll be about 30 more minutes, and then I'll give you a call and we can hook up. Is that okay?
Oh, what area are you in?
Well, I kind of got to go. I'm in the middle of something, but I'll catch up with you like in 30 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Thanks. Bye.
Mind turning
really
off your
sorry.
phone?
Oh, yeah. I'm really sorry. I don't, it was just kind of, sorry about that.
All right. You got it off?
Yeah.
Okay. Your pager's not by chance on, is it? You want to turn that off too? All right. Great.
I'm
Okay.
really sorry about that.
Okay, so back to where we were. We're at so we're trying to figure out how it is that you lived with your dad, and then what happened such that you tried to kill yourself a month ago.
Right. Okay, right.
So what changed?
So basically, a lot of my appointments sort of dropped off that, I'm kind of, physically stable now. And I only have a couple of appointments, so I'm home more. And, he's home more. He's a teacher. So he's got summer off. And so he's home more, and I'm home more. And I think it's just that we're around each other, and I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of is that we're just around each other more. And I mean, he just, some of the stuff he says, I think it just, it just gets to me. It just starts like, it's not like there's any one thing. It's like it just kind of is all coming together and adding up and adding up. And, like, he says stuff like, well, you've got to find your part in all this. I mean, people's lives just don't fall apart because of a car accident. So, you've got to sit down and figure out your part in all of this. And, I've found God and I've found religion and my life turned around. And if you found God and you found religion, maybe your life would turn around. If you were just trying harder, you wouldn't be in this predicament.
Now, when you took this half bottle of Tylenol about a month ago, the time you took it, were you thinking you'd be dead?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So think back to then, okay? What time of day did you do this?
It was in the evening.
All right. Do you remember what time?
It was after dinner. They'd gone off on a walk, so probably like 6.
Okay. So tell me something. When did you decide to do it? Like when was the moment that you knew you were going to do
At dinner.
At dinner?
At dinner.
Okay. So you hadn't actually decided yet before dinner?
Right. No.
Okay.
Absolutely at dinner.
Okay. So what happened at dinner?
This is going to sound really pathetic, but it was a look on his face. It was a look on his face
Really?
that I remember so clearly from being a kid. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
What was the look?
It was like, it's the look that he used to get when I was still stupid enough to tell him about being touched. Like, he just didn't believe anything I said and that it was all my fault. I mean, it's hard to describe, but it just sets all my hair on edge. And I just kind of faked my way through the last few minutes of dinner. And it was kind of not all that hard once I decided, because I knew, I was like, fuck it, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. And I thought, I'll just kill myself.
So tell me something then. When your dad gave you that look, you sound like the main response was you got angry?
I got pissed.
Okay, so really angry.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when did the thought, I'm out of here, I'll just kill myself, into your mind?
Bam.
At dinner?
Yeah, it was right there.
Okay. And so, so you waited till the end of dinner? So what made you think of taking Tylenol?
Something I knew we had.
You had it in your apartment? Were you up at your parents' eating there? Okay. Is that where you usually eat?
Yeah, there's not really like a kitchen. There's just like a mini fridge and a microwave in my place.
Okay. So you're up there eating, so you went and got their Tylenol? All right. And how come you only took half a bottle instead of the whole thing?
I thought that if I took the whole thing, I'd probably just puke. And then the whole point would be gone.
Okay. So when did you write the note and do all that stuff?
That was with the second one.
Oh, all right. So the first one sounds a little on the impulsive side.
You would not be the first person who said that perhaps I have an impulsive streak. I think you're right.
Okay.
I think you're right.
Had you been thinking about suicide before that?
I can't honestly think of a time where I haven't been thinking about suicide. But, it's kind of like there've been my entire life, it's kind of like been thinking about suicide maybe is sometimes the only way I can get to sleep at night. Just knowing that, that there is a way out. But I hadn't really been thinking about, trying to be dead.
All right. Okay, so you take the half a bottle of Tylenol, then what'd you do?
And then I went to my room,
Went to bed?
sat down on the bed, and just kind of waited to die.
So were you thinking that if you just stayed there long enough, you'd end up dead? Okay, so how come you didn't end up dead?
That nattering woman that is married to my father, she's such a busybody. She comes down to say, Katie, your father and I are going to go for a walk. We think that with the mood you've been in, it would be so nice to have you come. So she apparently, she comes in and she finds me, and I'm, kind of half in it, kind of half out of it.
How far was this?
It's so sketchy. I don't really know. I'm just kind of like patching it together from what people have told me. But I know that, despite the fact that they're all worried that I was going to be dead, do they call an ambulance? No. They throw me in the back of a car and drive me to the ER. You'd think if people were really that concerned that, they'd call an ambulance.
Okay, so they take you to the ER, and
I guess they pump my stomach there and shit, and I was, I got medical treatment and stuff, and
how'd you end up on intensive care then?
I really, you'd have to talk to the doctors. I really don't know.
Okay. And so you never really passed out?
I was in and out, and I know that they pumped my stomach because I remember that charcoal stuff. And I remember being, in a couple of different rooms. And then the next thing I know, they're talking about, sending me to a psych unit or something. And, that was a cue to me that I'd better convince these people I wasn't nuts. Because if I was going to, fix it right the next time, I've seen enough movies to know, they're not going to let you do this in a hospital. But it was...
So in other words, you still wanted to kill yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
So even though it was impulsive to start with, once you kind of impulsively decided to do it, you still wanted to do it?
Oh, absolutely. I was furious when I realized I wasn't dead.
All right. So you were mad at the hospital people?
Oh, mad, yes.
And still at your parents?
Oh, yes.
And you decided to lie?
Oh, yeah.
To get yourself out of there?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to have to be careful because you might lie to me.
That's kind of a ballsy thing to say.
Yeah, but that's what's making me think.
I guess about this, yeah, maybe.
All right. So how'd you end up back in the hospital again on another suicide attempt? What happened?
Well, that's where this nurse, reading my, my medical chart and knowing, about my heart problem, she said, oh, you're one lucky young lady. If you'd still been taking this other heart medicine, that Tylenol, that would have killed you for sure. And I just thought, lady, you're talking to a woman who's sitting here in a hospital having just tried to off herself, and you're giving me, recipe tips for how to do this better. And I just tucked that away and, just kind of waited, very planful, knew I had to kind of get everybody's sort of, alert down if I was going to make this one work. So I tucked that little information away and then thought, okay, I'll learn. I'll learn from my past mistakes. And my dad's on heart medicine or blood medicine or, something, the Coumadin. And I thought, okay, that's what it takes. That's what I'll do.
So you took that.
So I took that.
So how'd you end up not dying?
Well, if you ask my dad, it's because he and his wife prayed for me. Other
If I
than
asked
that,
you, though, what was it?
I don't know, probably some sort of screw up on my part again. Everything that doesn't work out well is usually some sort of a screw up on my part. I probably just didn't have the right balance and shit. But, yeah.
Well, how'd you end up in the hospital again?
Well, I went to the critical care unit.
I mean, how'd you get there?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean...
So did you take them, did you try to kill yourself
At home.
at home?
Yeah, I mean, they put me in an ambulance this time. But I remember, being in my room and starting to kind of not feel so well. And I remember I kind of had like a smile It's like it was kind of weird now I think about it. It was like, I was starting to get into some real, kind of like pain. But I thought the more it hurts, the more it's working.
Okay, so you did this twice. So when you woke up the second time, were you glad you were alive, or did you wish you were dead?
It's kind of weird. It's like the second time worked and didn't work in that, clearly I'm not dead because I'm sitting here with you. But it worked in that, I don't know, I'm totally okay with the fact I'm not dead. It's like I was even more planful and more sure that I was going to die this time. This is the one that I wrote the letter. And it's so weird to me because when I realized I wasn't dead, I was like, that's cool too. That's cool too. So like right now, while we sit here, this seems so weird that I'm in this suicide prevention research because, yeah, I absolutely hate my life and I hate my circumstances and I hate everything right now, but it's like I don't have any desire at all to be dead. It's like, I don't know, it's like it kind of like cured me or something. Like now it's like, it just seems like, well, there's some problems to be solved. Then suicide was my solution. I'm very clear about that. But now it's like, I've always been like, like a business person. I've got my company and I figure things out, and now it's just one more thing to figure out.
Well, listen, I'm thrilled that you're in this program, and I'm happy you're in therapy with me, but we have a really serious problem. And our problem is that you lied at the hospital.
Not the second time.
I'm glad to hear that. So we've got to be sure now that you are being honest, not only with me, but with yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when you try to convince the hospital after the first one that you weren't suicidal and they should let you go, then I have to say the second time you convinced them of the same thing because you convinced them that you should be able to come to our program rather than go on involuntary.
When there's something pretty clear to me, I can work hard for it.
And on the first one, though, and when you convinced them you weren't suicidal, did you convince yourself also, or did you know you were suicidal and knew you were lying?
Oh, I knew I was suicidal. I knew I was lying.
Okay. So why? My worry is that you're convincing me now. So let me just ask you something. Why? What's changed? Why not kill yourself now?
It just made things worse. It didn't change anything for the better. Now, not only am I in my father's house, but people hover. I had zero privacy before. I had zero independence because I'm still getting my physical strength back. I relied on them for everything, and now they hover. It did not. It fixed nothing. It made everything worse. And I was so sure I was going to be dead. I had a medical person tell me the recipe for how to be dead. I was so sure I was going to be dead, and I'm not. And the only way I could guarantee being dead would be like to, like blow my head off or something. But I don't like pain. I've had enough of it, and there's certain kind of pain, you can kind of handle, like having your body beat up and stuff from a car wreck. But it just sounds like it would just be so painful to like stab yourself or shoot yourself, and I'm just kind of chicken when it comes to that stuff. It's like I don't want,
Okay, so let's talk about this, because here's the thing. There's no way for me to know for sure how suicidal you are. So my only option is going to be to simply believe what you tell me. And either you're going to tell me the truth, and if you do, this therapy is really going to be useful. Or you're not going to tell me the truth, and the therapy and our relationship will sort of go downhill. So all I can tell you is that it's up to you to somewhat decide how honest you want to be with me. But my only option is to actually just believe you. So I'm going to believe that right now you don't want to kill yourself. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay.
Wouldn't want to be you.
Huh?
I wouldn't want to be in your position. I'm sorry. I can completely see how hard of a position I'm putting you in.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's true. Okay, so you don't want to be dead because your parents hover.
Father and his wife. They're not my parents.
But that's a good reason not to attempt suicide again and fail, because they'll just keep hovering. But that's not a very good reason not to actually kill yourself. So the next time you feel the same way, why wouldn't you just do a better job?
Unless somebody gives me the better recipe, I thought I had done everything.
So in
I
other
don't
words,
think
the
there is
main
another
reason
way.
you're not going to try to kill yourself again is because you're thinking that it won't succeed no matter what you do.
Well, there's that, and it didn't fix anything. And I've never been a person who's afraid of hard work. I mean, I work with my hands all my life. Hard work doesn't scare me any. And it's been hard work to try to be dead. I figure, why not work just as hard and try to get my old life back? I mean, it seems... It's just...
Do you need a Kleenex?
If we could just get my old life back. Or where I can have my house back. Have my animals. Be independent. That's what I want.
So in other words, all things being equal, you'd rather have a life worth living than be dead?
Definitely. I just don't know how to do it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about how to keep you alive, because if you're dead, you will not get a life worth living. And so the first thing I have to go through is, one, now that you've mentioned guns and knives, do you have any guns?
No.
Do you have a gun permit?
No, I don't even know how to get one.
Okay. Does your dad have guns?
No.
Okay. So we can't really keep you from having Tylenol around, but how about your dad's heart medicine? Where's that now?
I don't know. I haven't looked for it.
All right. You realize, though, that if his heart medicine stays where it was, and you impulsively decide to kill yourself again, you could just easily get it. So one of the things that sounds to me like we need to do, if you decide to be in this therapy and to keep yourself alive, is we're going to have to figure out a way to make it not so available.
Right. Get a distance between me and it.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Okay. And we've already gone over that you're not on any medications, right?
Right. I want to keep it that. I don't know if you're that kind of doctor, but I don't want anything.
Okay, but they haven't given you any pain medication?
Well, yeah, but
Well, what do you have?
well, from time to time they'll give me, some I think it's like codeine-based stuff. But when I came out of the hospital after the last suicide attempt, they didn't send me home with any prescriptions, and My dad has my pain medicine now, so if it gets really bad, I can ask for pain medicine. But I don't have it. That was very smart, I think, from them.
Okay, so you don't have pain medicine, but you have access to wherever your dad's got the medication.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where it is. I've asked for pain medicine twice, and he said, yeah, I'll get it for you, and he just brings me one. I mean, I think that they're sort of on the same wavelength as you, that they don't want to, I don't think they want to have me try to kill myself again.
Okay, so listen. This is, as I said earlier, it's a life worth living program. But to get a life worth living, we've got to stop suicide attempts.
That makes sense to me.
And so one of the first things we have to do is work on the fact that you've been suicidal. Now, my approach to suicidal behavior, and you have to tell me whether you agree with this or not, okay, is that suicidal behavior, suicide attempts, and even suicide, rather than being the problem, they're the solution.
That was definitely it. It was the solution.
Yeah. The problem with the solution is that it's the solution that doesn't work.
Right.
So certainly trying to kill yourself and staying alive doesn't work because you're already seeing that yourself. So you've got that experience, okay? And it sounds to me, just listening to you, that you think that if you try to kill yourself again, you wouldn't succeed. And so there's no point in trying, right?
Right.
Okay. But let's talk about whether, my worry, to tell you the truth, is my low worry in the back of my mind, is that someone's going to tell you a way to kill yourself that you're going to start believing would work. So let's talk about whether killing yourself would actually work. And whether you've got any reasons to stay alive other than you've got right now hope for a life worth living, to get your old life back, which is really great, and that's your strength, that's what's going to keep you alive. And we have to figure out a way to keep that. But we've also got to work on this impulsive sitting at dinner and not getting another aha.
Yeah.
I mean, how do I know you're not going to watch a TV show that'll show you some way to kill yourself that you'll start thinking works?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's discuss what you're going to do if you come up in your mind with a way that you now are sure is going to work, like you were the last time. What about that? You think you'll just try to kill yourself if that happens?
I think I'll remind myself that I could be wrong. It probably wouldn't work.
That's very good. You do want to remind yourself of that. I once treated a patient who shot herself in the head with a gun and lived.
No way.
Right. Then she just had brain damage, and her life is a whole lot worse than it was before she shot herself in the head.
Oh, man.
So getting a gun and shooting yourself is no guarantee of being dead. In fact, I can't think of any guarantee. There are lots of ways that if they work, they kill you. But almost every way that if it works and you end up dead is a way that when it doesn't work, you end up in bad shape,
Yeah.
but alive. So,
Yeah. No.
very good. Rule
Life's
one.
hard enough right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So can we agree at a minimum, this is 1 year, we're going to make an agreement for 1 year in this treatment?
Agreement
and that
to
for a
what?
minimum of 1 year, you will absolutely not kill yourself, even if you come up with a way to do it that will work?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, did I tell you we have a 1 year follow-up where we try to monitor you for a year after treatment?
Right. I remember reading that.
Yeah. So how about if we agree on 2 years not killing yourself? Because it would be a shame to go through a whole year of therapy and then knock yourself off. So let's agree to 2 years.
Why not?
Okay, good. So we've got 2 years, no suicide.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other thing we have to work on is do you have any urges to harm yourself not suicidally? Have you ever done that before? Your notes said you didn't, but I want to be sure you didn't.
No. I mean, like, have I done stuff that's stupid that resulted in me being harmed? Yeah. Like...
Okay, so what did I do in this session? I'm just getting ready to close off the session. I have about 5 more minutes in the session, and I'm getting ready to close it off by making sure that she doesn't want to harm herself. And then what I'm going to do is review with her that we've agreed that we'll work on making sure she doesn't have access to meds. Will she talk to her dad? Make sure she doesn't. And I'm going to make an appointment for our next session. So what have I done during this session? The main thing I did was try to understand her most recent suicidal behavior and what the predictors of that were. And what I found was that one of the predictors was simply sitting with her dad, and she had an impulsive decision to kill herself, which, kind of unfortunately and somewhat dangerously, she then held on to that motivation for quite a while. And so right now, I'm dealing with a person who I have no good reason to believe won't impulsively once again get the motivation or the impulse to kill herself again. And the only good reason that she seems to have for not killing herself is her belief that if she tries to kill herself, it will just make things worse because she won't manage to get it to work. And she seems to have some slight belief that she might be able to get a life worth living because she wants to start getting her old life back. So one of the things I'll try to do before the end of this session is try to work with making sure she walks out with some hope. Now, in a first session with a highly suicidal client, I usually go 90 minutes. So I usually do 1.5 session rather than just a short session. So I told the client at the beginning that we would probably go for that much time. And so what I'm going to try to do at the end of this session is get things more or less tied together. I'm feeling that she's made a reasonably strong commitment to stay alive. And my only real question is whether she's fooling me or not fooling me, given that she just fooled the hospital. But there's really not a whole lot I can do about that because there's no way for me to actually know whether she's lying or not lying. So what's going through my mind as I'm thinking about it in the session with her is whether I want to talk to her father and her father's wife and have them come in just to talk to them about the high risk and high danger that we're in. But I'm trying to debate whether I'd want to bring that up or not, and I doubt that I would bring that up in the first session. So she's walking out saying that she's decided not to kill herself. I don't give her a diary card on the first session, but I do give her my phone number, and she knows that if anything changes or she gets more suicidal, she can call me. But I don't have any great belief that she's going to call me. She doesn't seem right now the type that naturally would call me. So by the end of the session, what I've done is we have this commitment that she'll stay alive. We have a commitment that if she gets the impulse to call me, she will call me. And we've got that commitment from her that she will make sure that her dad has taken the medication, his heart medication, and put it somewhere where she won't be able to find it. We know that he's already got the codeine somewhere that she can't find it. And we have an appointment to get together again next week. So that's pretty much what happens by the end of this session. If you've got further questions or thoughts or concerns about this, be sure to send an email, put down your question. We won't be able to answer them on the webcast, but we will put some answers to those questions in the toolkit that you get. So, thank you.
We have now come to the end of this session. Thank you for joining us in the first session in this series on assessing and treating suicidal behaviors. Please check our website at www.behavioraltech.org for the date of the second session in this series. If you would like CE credits for today's program, you can request those by contacting ceinfo@behavioraltech.org. We would love to hear your feedback or questions on what your educational experience has been like through our distance learning programs. Please send those comments to webcast@behavioraltech.org. I would like to take a moment to thank Marsha and Katie for all of their hard work, and to thank ELN for their assistance in producing this webcast. I would also like to thank all of you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webcast.